All right, everyone. Trump was acquitted the other day, and that's like, it was a no-brainer that that was going to happen. I was honestly surprised, actually, that they got several Republicans to join up. Like, Murkowski was iffy, and Romney as well. But they actually got five others. They got Sass, Toomey, Collins, Cassidy, and Burr to join with them, still falling far short of a two-thirds majority that they needed. It was a foregone conclusion. It was a waste of time. Shudder to think how much money that it cost to keep the Senate there and hire all the lawyers, and it's all taxpayer funded as part of a witch hunt that they knew would fail. It was preordained. There will be, by the way, a comment pinned if you're watching this on YouTube with 4 links in it that will show you other sites that I upload to, other video hosting sites: Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, and Daily Motion. You should join me on one or all of them for increased stability and usage and performance. The Trump derangement cult's going crazy. Also a foregone conclusion. It's like the entire thing from day one, since people were like, well, we're going to have to impeach Donald Trump, this is before the inauguration, the whole thing was a foregone conclusion. It's almost like scripted, like fated, if you will. You knew that Trump wasn't going to get convicted, number one, because most Republicans, other than these 7 weirdos, all of which are neocon scumbags, they knew that you can't impeach Trump retroactively. He's a private citizen now. He's not actually in office. You can't remove someone from an office they don't hold. The idea of retroactive impeachment would open up a huge can of worms where basically what would there be to stop a hyperpartisan Senate at some point, Republican, Democrat, whatever, from retroactively degrading the actions of a former president or of anyone else that had been in office? Well, you see, Your Honor, this law or this SCOTUS decision isn't binding because, of course, the person who put the majority in there was an illegitimate president. This bill is illegitimate because, you know, the 3-vote majority that it carried by becomes nullified because we retroactively impeached 5 or 6 of the people that voted for it. It would be anarchy. Can you imagine the SCOTUS decisions that would be required in the situation? If you end up with a situation where a specifically partisan legislature can basically erase a person from history. This would be definitely a capstone of cancel culture. This would be taking it one step further than it's already gone, and it's already fucking draconian. He was going to be acquitted from day one. Only complete morons believed otherwise. I saw people, they fucking reasonably, you know, sort of hip political analysts. Well, Trump, this could be big trouble for him. This could be the big one. They're going to bring out some smoking gun at these hearings that's going to convince Republicans to stop siding with the Republican Party. Again, Romney was always, he was obviously going to vote to impeach. Not because he actually wants to impeach him, but because he wants to grandstand. He's become the anti-Trump sort of GOP legislative figure. It would be hysterical if he was crazy enough to run again. You know, third time's not usually actually a charm. I got the little tiny spoon, Dutch-sized. Yeah, not nearly enough coffee. I'll probably have to brew another one. But I mean, other than these 7 Cuckservatives, this also shows one other thing. This shows the solidification of the Republican Party, largely behind the ideal that populism, for the first time in a long time, most Republicans, instead of backing down and quivering like cowards when the Democrats call them mean names, most of them have said, whatever. Who fucking cares? I think probably it's because they realize that the MAGA populist side of the GOP is more popular. The neocons are basically a relic, a bad joke that's dragged out once in a while to appear as though there's some point to them actually being in the legislature. The Trump side has hammered the Democrats. You can see this in the election. Ignoring the honk-honk side of things in the executive capacity, the Republicans had a pretty clean winning streak. They took the New Hampshire legislature. When the Democrats were trying to take up to 6 from them, they completely failed. They managed to virtually wipe out the House majority for Democrats. They maintained roughly a tie in the Senate. And the Republicans did fine, and they've got 3 Supreme Court justices just from the last administration. They're riding high, and they're looking forward to the, in my opinion, very real potential of a knockout midterms. That is, that I expect there to be a red wave barring some massive happenstance that really fucks the Republicans, which would probably relate to the neocons, in all honesty. Their strategic losership. See, the neocons, like a Romney, would rather lose and be solemn and graceful about it than actually attempt to win, because winning's hard. Republicans, by and large, from Reagan until now, they didn't try to win. They tried to simply hold the line and stop most of what the Dems wanted to do. So just obstructionism. This is, by the way, this establishment obstructionism, the unwillingness of a so-called right wing in the United States that by and large doesn't really ideologically exist at all, because the Republicans are just Democrat 2.0 most of the time, barring a populist movement or a libertarian movement or even a genuine strengthened leftist movement, the parties were seen as solely focused on obstruction. Solely focused on not doing something rather than providing a positive idea of what to do next. And the Democrats, by and large, they sort of changed their tune, and the Republicans were being stubborn about it, and so it leads to this situation where you had Trump elected number one as a referendum, basically, on the Democrats' shitty ideas. And now you have resistance among some of the bought-out Republicans, again, like Sass or Romney. And some of these, it's funny, like Lindsey Graham, strange, man, so is McConnell, because they both voted to acquit. Just for decorum purposes. Then they turn around and blast Trump afterwards. Well, if you think he's so fucking terrible, why didn't you vote to impeach? Constitutional reasons is their excuse, I believe. It's really funny to see that Turtle Man basically stabbing Trump in the back while protecting him in the legal sense, just because he understands Senate decorum. He's almost gone beyond the partisanship game into the game of, well, I'm part of the Senate. This is my unique identity. Mitch McConnell's a weird man. Imagine the weird shit he must get up to in the bedroom. But the acquittal was foregone. There was never any chance whatsoever that they were going to convict him. Even if they did, the Supreme Court would immediately step in and they would have to affirm what we all know. You can't impeach a person after they've left the office. You can't remove them from an office they're not in, barring them from holding office. If they're really that bad, you have to do that while they're actually in office. Some people have said, well, that creates a dangerous scenario where a person can get away with murder, basically, if they're in office and it's just the last, few weeks that they're there. Absolutely. What is the alternative to that? The alternative to that is basically handing a potential partisan legislative body the power to retroactively punish people years and years later, just on a whim. Remember, the House can impeach anyone that it likes. It doesn't need actual evidence. They just make a charge. The Senate then supposedly investigates it, but what we saw was not investigation. What we saw was a shouting match between Democrats that were pouting about racism and pouting about the Capitol, and Trump's attorneys and the GOP who stepped in and said, well, it's not impeachable, it's not insurrection. Trump's comments are fundamentally similar to what's been said by Democrats now for years. Here's a 10-minute reel of it. Yesterday, what we saw was a farce. Yesterday, all we saw were a bunch of people basically talking about their fucking feelings, none of which are actionable. To Romney and Collins and all these great discredit, apparently they're very emotional people. They break down in tears watching movies, I guess. That's about all. Peace out.